Hutchinson, urging her to, quote, do the right thing, and that the individual referenced as a person in one of those messages is, in fact, Meadows himself. Meadows' spokesperson denies that he tried to intimidate her, denies that that message was sent on his behalf. So joining me now is the former director of the European Affairs for the United States National Security Council, retired Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman. Welcome in, Colonel. Thank you so much for being in. And we first want to address your own firsthand knowledge about Trump world tactics to intimidate. You have extensive experience in that world. In fact, you filed a civil lawsuit last February accusing Donald Trump Jr., Rudy Giuliani, and two former White House staffers of trying to prevent and later punish you for testifying in Trump's first impeachment trial. What did you make of the messages in Tuesday's hearing, given your own personal experience?
Unfortunately, this is like some sort of bad mafia movie, except unfortunately, these are real life characters that are in leadership positions. In my case, I didn't have a vast amount of experience with the Trump administration. I was a professional staffer coming out of the Department of Defense, so I didn't have those long-standing ties with the Republican Party or the Trump world. But I also experienced some similar types of, intimidation tactics, whether that was the lawyers that were hired by Trump and were senior members of the Trump team saying, well, are you sure that's what you heard? Or do maybe you need to rethink about what you're saying, what you heard. This is a different interpretation. I mean, the transcript tells the story pretty clearly, but it was so maybe slightly more sophisticated because these were more professional staff. But Mark Meadows, the Giulianis out there, Trump himself are pretty ham-handed, and like I said, are something maybe closer out of a movie or a comic book, and this is the way they operate.
And they also went after your brother. We got to mention that.
They did. He worked for an attorney team, the same one that tried to, walk back or rethink my own observations about Trump corruption. And this particular team retaliated against my brother. They tried to send him immediately after giving him the most glowing performance review. They turned around and tried to give him a terrible performance review to harm his military career and prevent his promotion. The Army investigated it. The Inspector General within the Department of Defense investigated it and determined that it was as a result of retaliation. So this is the way they operate. It wasn't just against me. It was against my brother. It was against family. It was any way that they could potentially pressure a witness or somebody that's standing on principle to bend to their corrupt practices. And we will see more of this now. God forbid there's ever a second Trump administration or any kind of Trump like figure that emerges after 2024. We're going to see it even more blatantly. Nobody will be safe. Anybody that runs afoul of the administration, it won't be rule of law. It will be rule by law, and they'll use legal means or any other means of intimidation. That's why I'm so adamant and about ensuring that we don't have another Trump or another Trump-like figure rise to power. That would undo our democracy.
And Lieutenant Colonel, do you think that you speaking out and Hutchinson speaking out, giving testimony, could help inspire others to continue to come forward and not be intimidated by the Trump machine? You tweeted out on Tuesday, Cassidy Hutchinson has more guts than Mark Meadows and the rest of Trump's henchmen combined. Do you think people like Pat Cipollone will come forward and tell the truth?
The problem with some of these figures is that they're both intimidated and they still see some sort of way to keep in good graces with the far-right Republicans. So I don't know if, Pat would be one of those folks to step forward, but there are plenty of public servants that have stepped forward. Everybody that's testified in the January 6th hearings, has been a Republican figure. So I think that it is going to inspire a courageous act by Cassidy, a 25-year-old a woman with her entire future in front of her, should allow some older, more established white men to stand up and show a little bit of fortitude. So I hope they follow her example.
And I want to shift gears just a little bit. In April, you argued that the January 6th insurrection was a signal to Russian President Putin to begin building up his forces on the Ukrainian border. What do you make of what has happened since?
Well, to me, it's absolutely clear that Putin saw an opportunity in Trump and Trumpism. He saw an opportunity in Trump that was like-minded in a Republican Party that was going to support Putin as opposed to the democratically elected president of Ukraine, Zelensky, and he acted on that basis. Of course, Putin was disastrously mistaken about who the American people were. They rejected Putin and Putinism, and you have the Republican Party attempting to dig itself out of that hole. But more importantly, he underestimated the Ukrainian people, and he continues to get punished for it. Just this past week, there have been some major developments on the geopolitical front. Finland and Sweden joining NATO is a huge boon to the alliance. These are powerful members that will be net security providers. And then with regards to the war itself, Snake Island, Russia being forced to vacate Snake Island because of the weapons that are being provided by the U.S. and the West are having an impact. They're striking deep targets. They're striking Snake Island. They're striking munitions depots. And it's going to be an increasingly costly campaign for Putin moving forward as these weapons come online. So it's not doom and gloom. I think we're seeing some really terrible losses on the Ukrainian side, multiples of that for the Russian side, and the Russians are going to break sooner than the Ukrainians are.
I was going to ask you what your prediction was, and there we have it right there. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman on with us this afternoon. Thank you for your time.